I come from a long line of farmers and those with an uncanny ability to grow just about anything. Me, not so much. In fact, I've been known to kill fake plants. Do you have a green thumb? Hello and welcome to Moments in History. I'm Linda Shenton-Matchett, author, speaker, and history geek. While researching my stories, I unearth tons of intriguing historical information that doesn't end up in my books. So I've created this channel to share those tidbits with you. Today, I'm going to share with you about Britain's Women's Land Army, or the WLA, a cadre of more than 200,000 women who took the place of men who left their farms to fight the enemy during World War II. The WLA was created by the British Board of Agriculture in 1917 during World War I, when agricultural labor shortages threatened the nation's food supply. Led by Lady Gertrude Denman, approximately 27,000 women joined before the WLA was disbanded with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles in 1919. 20 years later, in 1939, war loomed again, and the Ministry of Agriculture reinstated the WLA and asked Lady Denman to once again lead the organization. Headquarters was set up in her home, Balcombe Place, Hayward Heath, West Sussex, where the squash court was used as the uniform store. Raised in an openly feminist and politically active house, Gertrude Mary Denman, known as Trudy, was taught that her family wealth and status in society must be used to serve the greater good of the community. She was married to Thomas Denman, 3rd Baron Denman, and 5th Governor General of Australia. During her time abroad, she held many national and international leadership roles within various women's organizations. After serving as chairman of the subcommittee of the Agriculture Organization Society, Lady Denman helped found the Women's Institutes in 1916. The institutes became self-governing when, under her supervision, the National Federation of Women's Institutes, the NFWI, was founded in 1917. She was elected its first president and was re-elected to the position every year until her retirement in 1946. In 1933, Lady Denman was made a Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire, DBE. Initially reliant on volunteers, the WLA drew women from all walks of life, with a significant number coming from cities like London and other urban centers. Posters and advertisements portrayed an idyllic rural lifestyle, enticing women with promises of fresh air and wholesome work. By the autumn of 1941, over 20,000 women, called land girls, had joined, many from these urban areas, unfamiliar with rural life. By December of that year, the WLA began conscripting women into service. Before the war, Britain had relied heavily on imported food, but German U-boat attacks on the merchant ships made this unsustainable. Therefore, the WLA's primary mission was to increase domestic food production, which included provisions to hospitals and nursing homes. In addition to working both private and public lands, some land girls were involved in reclamation projects, transforming previously unsuitable land, such as the fenlands of East Anglia, into arable farmland. Training could be as short as a few weeks, but new recruits were taught essential skills like planting, harvesting, and operating machinery. Remember, many of these women did not know how to drive. Specialized training centers prepared recruits for tasks like dairy farming and pest control. The work was grueling, with land girls working 48 hours a week during the winter and 50 hours per week in the summertime, in all kinds of weather. Tasks included plowing, planting, harvesting fields, milking cows, and mending fences. In some areas, the land girls worked alongside Italian prisoners of war, underscoring the diversity of Britain's wartime labor force. Approximately 25% of the land girls worked in dairy farming, tending to cows, milking, and ensuring the production of the vital dairy products. In an interview years later, one land girl talked about her initiation into milking cows. She said, "The first afternoon, about 3 o'clock, I had to sit under the biggest cow I had ever seen. Her name was Ruffy because she was very, very dark brown and had such a curly coat. Well, I struggled for 3 milkings to try and get the knack, which I couldn't. It would have been easier if I sat still and the cow jumped up and down, you know?" Other teams of land girls were trained to manage vermin that threatened food supplies, reportedly killing thousands of rats annually. They also managed foxes, rabbits, and moles, which posed great risk to crops. In 1942, the Women's Timber Corps, or Lumberjills, was established. These women felled trees and prepared timber for use as pit props and telegraph poles. Still others worked specialist tasks, such as a team that was assigned to Kew Gardens in Surrey, where chamomile, of all things, was planted, which was then harvested as a quick-growing, wiry camouflage for new airfields. I'm not sure how that worked, but it sure sounds intriguing. Some of the women lived on the farms where they worked, while others resided in one of the 700 hostels set up by the government. Uniforms were issued and included a brown coat, tan corduroy breeches or long pants, green sweaters, a brown felt hat, and sturdy boots. According to one member, "When one first joined the land army, you were given a plain armband, but the longer you served, the bands became more decorated. We were issued with the half diamonds after every 6 months on the land. The county secretary suggested sewing them to the armbands, but I seem to remember we made a wider band that we wore on our greatcoat sleeve, sort of as a status symbol." Minimum wage for the land girls was 28 shillings per week, and deductions were taken for board and lodging. This was significantly lower than the average wage for male agricultural workers, which was 38 shillings a week. Holidays were also not part of the compensation package until 1943, when the Land Girls Charter was issued and included 1 week's vacation and a slight increase in pay. By 1944, at its peak, the organization had over 80,000 members working all across Britain. In February 1945, Lady Denman resigned in protest against the government's decision to exclude its members from post-war financial benefits. Because of continued rationing and the need for food production, the Women's Land Army was not disbanded until 1950. When a woman left the Army, she received her last week's pay, a letter from the Queen as thanks for their effort, sometimes money from the Land Army Benevolent Fund, a greatcoat, but only if it was dyed blue, an armband, 20 clothing coupons in return for turning in their uniform. Are you intrigued by the Women's Land Army? Grab a lesson in love, set in Yorkshire, England during World War II and featuring these stalwart ladies. The purchase link is in the description. And if you'd like to learn even more history, please stop by my blog found on my website at www.lindashentonmatchett.com. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.